Welcome to Cult Connections. Let's see what we are taking a sideways look at today. Hello, it's Ian here. I am joined by Guillaume. How are you there today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me.
There you are most they're welcome. So what we're going to talk about today is our shared love of the post-apocalyptic films. This is certainly something that I grew up with, and it's really shaped the kind of films that I like, and also how we maybe look at the world in sort of general, and very much actually the world that we're living in there just now. I think certainly we both feel that there's sort of COVID and lots of other things as well that are happening in our their present their sort of days. It almost feels like we're on a little their sort of tipping point in a way.
Yeah, in a way, all these things, the greatest of the golden age of post-apocalyptic cinema was in the early 80s. But 40 years after that, no, of course, the problems and the preoccupations and the issues we have that are not exactly the same that they were in the 80s, where the idea of a cataclysm of an apocalypse was more Cold War related. Mm-hmm. And atomic related. No, it has much more to do with the environment situation, the worldwide environment issues. But so of course it won't be the same. We wouldn't face the same kind of apocalypse. No, that we know today, because it became unlikely that we would receive a rain of nuclear missiles over our heads. But still, what is very appealing with the genre, and what I believe maintains the post-apocalyptic films what maintains those films as relevant films, is that they imagine what the world will become after all the rules of all the governments, all what makes all the comfort, all the way of life we have, will have called apart. And this is very this is very appealing, because anyone can project himself into a world where everything has collapsed. Or would survive, what kind of values he would stand for, and what kind of car he would have to face the apocalypse too. A special car, what kind of customized car he could have too.
Absolutely, and thinking about the first film that we are going to they sort of cover, and it spoke to me when I was a lot they're younger, and really they sort of resonated with myself. On a side note, I've spoken to quite a lot of people who really enjoy horror films, and when they talk about the reasons why they like horror films so much, it's very much comes down to their own personal their sort of fears.
Yes, of course, the essential personal fears.
Yeah. But for me, and what really captured me was that I did have a fear that their sort of society would their sort of collapse, and these films really fueled my their sort of the imagination, and I can put myself into the their sort of place of the characters. I don't know about you, but so the first film that we are going to speak about is 1971's The Omega Man, and and very much I think that the 70s was the birth of this the genre. So we saw a lot of the examples of that, and quite big sort of Hollywood films as well. Big they're sort of popular films. I probably watched this when I was far too young. And that's maybe a reason why it did scare me so much. There for you, what was your first viewing of it?
Well, I discovered Omega Man when I was maybe not that young, because I think I was 10 when I saw it. So it was already some years after, because I was born in '73. So I think I already saw all the post-apocalyptic movies when I discovered the Omega Man. And at the time, I think I didn't have the in mind that it came way before all this era, all this genre, and that it laid the foundations of describing on the big screen what a collapsed world would look like, could look like. But on the other hand, it's less technological. It's kind of essential. The cataclysm that has happened has left one man, only one man. So what the imagination is very stimulated while you look at this film, while you're watching this film, while anyone watches this film, because for the first third of the movie, he's alone. He's alone. He just has to face threats that used to be human, but they could as well be animals or natural threats. But yeah, this is, and actually, it's the second adaptation of the same novel, because there was an adaptation in '60, and in the '60s, and Vincent Price was starring, and it was even less. Even less simple, even less straight to its idea, to its concept of the last man of Earth, the last man on Earth, which was also the catchline for I Am a Legend, which is the third adaptation that there was that came with Will Smith, which yeah, this is I think I'm more impressed by the beginning of the film than with the discovering of that kind of vampire-ish people that came later in the film. I think this is less surprising, and maybe this is not what the movie. This is not the main impact that it made on me. I don't know about you, but
no, I think actually you've summed it up really well there, and my thoughts exactly. So so you're absolutely right. It's just to cover the basics of the film. So like I say, it came out in 1971, as you've touched on, based on the novel I Am the Legend by Richard Matheson.
Yeah.
So starring the Charlton, the Heston as the Dr. Robert, the Neville, and Anthony Zabe, I think his name is. He plays the leader of the sort of vampire sort of group as they are. They're very, very much a sort of vampire type group of sort of humans, as it were, and the Rosalind, the Cash, who plays the Lisa. Interestingly enough, and you're absolutely right. I think for me, the first third really does sort of capture the loneliness I do know that they filmed it on a sort of weekend around Los and the sort of Angeles. So you have a very a very vast sort of cityscape that has, you know, practically no one. Well, there is no one in it. There's only, you know, Charlton, their sort of Heston going about, and you real and it really does sort of capture the fact that he is on his own,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, like you touched on, that absolutely spoke to me. You know, and what would we do if we were like that? How would we feel? You know, how would we spend our time actually if we were the last man on their sort of
Yeah,
earth?
and what will be the meaning of the purpose of getting up every morning if you have no social relationship and no almost nothing to achieve except your own survival. So this was really appealing. Really, I was really choked by this discovery, which came more or less at the same time when I was discovering the rest of the post-apocalyptic movies, which were very much more about having other group of other people antagonism and having to fight for your life. In this film, everything was and everyone has disappeared, almost disappeared, except at night, where there are those shapes that come to the city, which is a very frightening part too, and realize that it brings an overall feeling into the film. And yeah, after that, when Charlton Heston meets this woman who will later know that she's part of this vampirish, let's say, people. I remember that the relationship is interesting too, and also from an historical point of view, it's a colored character, and they have a kiss. They have some romance together, and it's one of the first interracial kisses in Hollywood cinema. So coming from involving an actor that wasn't in all wasn't really at the most advanced side of social rights fights, because Charlton Heston was a big NRA member and until the end. So but you know, that's not the only time. It's not the first time that maybe against his will, or maybe he wasn't aware of. It's not the first time that Charlton Heston found himself expressing important changes in the society, or characters who would be the carrier of speeches, of progressive speeches. I don't know if you remember, but in Spartacus, the writer of the film, Gore Vidal, I'd imagine that Ben-Hur, not in Spartacus, in Ben-Hur, Ben-Hur and Messala used to be lovers. And that's the backstory they imagine for the two characters. The actor who played Messala was briefed, but not Charlton Heston. So he was the only one to play the scene as and not to know that everything has been built and written to have former lovers that would reunite one being willing to continue to reprise the relationship, and the other one, which was a Eston, that wouldn't want. So that was yeah, that wouldn't be the only time, but I guess it also has to do with the status Charlton Heston had in the 60s and in the 70s. He was one of the biggest Hollywood stars. So yeah, that's not on him. The fact that it's the film with one of the first interracial kiss, it's not to you don't have you can get it to the credit of Charlton Heston. But
I think you're absolutely right. I think you know, and in my mind, you know, Charlton Heston isn't a the actor that you would first they sort of they're associate with more sort of progressive social their sort of movements. I mean, we do, you know, like you said, you know, we do very much think of him as being part, you know, of he obviously liked his their sort of guns and so on.
Big guns, yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to actual films that break their sort of barriers, and actually for making higher profile their sort of science fiction films as well. So I'm thinking of Planet of the Apes, which actually says a lot.
Yeah,
about,
yeah. Also, there is a big social background, of course, and
Yeah.
it tells about about social rights and about racism and
you know, and then sort of moving forward again he's in another their sort of classic and their favorite of mine, which is Soylent, their sort of Green, which actually touches on you know, a lot of their sort of issues, but one of them is actually how we look after our older sort of population as well. So
and also all the issues relating overpopulation and what we eat, and maybe if you go maybe a bit deeper, what we accept to ingest, to get into our bodies, and what we don't want to see. Because basically in Soylent Green, I think we can spoil the end of the movie, but people are eating the ancients. So it's you can rely to some affairs, to some big scandals. We add, and maybe we will get more about what we eat, like you know, in France. But you had it too, but in France, the scandal with the mad cows was huge, because and it came from the fact that we gave the old cows to be eaten to the cattle that we grow to provide meat to humans. So Soylent Green has also a lot of very relevant issues today, and also the environmental breakdown too. Indeed. So yes, you're perfectly right to mention Planet of the Apes and Soylent Green as also very good examples of Charlton Heston being in prescient, some kind of prescient films.
Indeed, and actually to come back to this film. So the reason why the Charlton Heston is on his own is due to man-made their virus, which has been used.
And that's another point of relevancy.
Exactly. So,
yeah, a virus gone mad, and virus resulting from the madness of man. I think it's a biological weapon in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's even more interesting to look back at the film now that we are not completely out of a worldwide virus crisis. So yes, I'll say to the people that listen that if they didn't watch the movie before, and even if they have, it's a movie really worth watching again now.
Yeah.
The Omega Man. I mean.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, it does it. It really does still sort of touch on, you know, ideas that are so sort of relevant there just now.
Yeah.
They're perhaps one thing that maybe modern their sort of viewers and their viewers who are younger than us, because like you said, actually at the start, we are the same age, so we have grown up watching these films at the same sort of time, and they're looking back. This stylistically, it's slightly sort of dated.
Yeah. Soylent Green, for example, is a more modern film.
Mm-hmm.
Soylent Green is is on the aesthetics as age as age better than the Omega Man.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
One thing I did find sort of funny, and I will assume they sort of agree. Did you watch this in a dubbed form or with subtitles?
Or with subtitles. Yeah. Or maybe the first time I saw it, it was dubbed, but I think I saw it 3 or 4 times, and when I was little, it was really difficult to find films with subtitles. But later on in the 80s and after that, and of course, since the DVD now with digital, it's not a problem to watch. Actually, I'm a father, so I think it's very important to have kids watch as soon as they can read films and series with subtitles, because it's really it's the best way to get them familiar with other languages, with English, because we watch a lot of programs of films and TV shows in English, obviously. But I watch it in I know the film in English. I don't remember well I remember Charlton Heston's voice in French. Because it was a very famous voice, because Charlton Heston was there all along, and I even remember an interview from the French actor we did. We always did Charlton Heston's voice, and I remember that sometimes in the street or even at the movies when he was speaking, people would turn to him and asked him if he was from Charlton Heston's family, if he was a relative to Charlton Heston, because he had the same voice. Because
he has a very similar voice.
His French voice sort of the same. I know the film in English. Yes.
There was 2 things really that sort of stood out for me that makes it feel they're sort of dated, and actually it's when we first see their Lisa, their sort of character. So when she first talks to the sort of Heston, and she's talking in that 1970s their jive, their sort of lingo, and that makes it feel sort of dated for me. I was like, a little bit.
That's the problem of the film. The films who want to be too on the hype of one time. They take the risk of aging badly.
Yeah, very much so. The other bit was actually their sort of music, because that in itself is quite sort of 1970s. In its there it has that sort of funky brass, their sort of feel of the late
early funky brass. It's not yeah, it's not a music I'm really fond of.
No,
It does the job, but yeah, I wouldn't buy the record.
no. One thing I will say about it, and I just have to touch on this because as a big science fiction fan, and as a the sort of British science fiction fan as well, the music was done by a chap called Ron the Grainer, who
Yeah.
most sort of British fans will know. He actually wrote the theme tune for the Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to point that one out. So it's but it does sort of date it. I would just like to sum up though on this film though. I do really like it. It does really speak a lot about where we are just now, and still feels very they're sort of relevant. I just watched it again the other day, and and it was a very enjoyable hour and a half, and so I would absolutely
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, because plus, yeah, we are going to move to the 80s now, and Omega Man is really one of the films that helped to build what we consider as modern science fiction, because modern science fiction is from the 80s. Because so it's that era when on one side you had all you had the generation to come, the generation of filmmakers and writers to come that were still growing up, that were still maturing, because they weren't in charge, they were very young. We will mention George Miller right after that. He was still a very young boy at the time, but all these films, they impressed. All these films like The Omega Man, like Silent Green, they impressed the generation of creators to come, and I think it helped them enlarge the possibilities, and it made boundaries fall to imagine really crazy worlds and worlds gone mad, gone crazy too. And that's also a film that has its real importance historically in the history of science fiction, and less horror. It's not a milestone in horror.
No.
But for science fiction, it's important.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you would understand better all what came after that. And it's interesting to compare it to the new version. There was I think it was more than 10 years ago, which which has the I kind of like the version with Will Smith too. It's a different film, but I think that there are interesting things in it too. Not the same, but
so we are going to move on to the 1980s and the very early 80s. So to 1981, and like we have mentioned a great film, the maker, and that's George the Miller. And it's their sequel to 1979's Mad Max. So it's the film that I know as Mad Max 2. I know a lot of people know it as Mad Max: The Road Warrior, or just Road Warrior. But in my mind, it's always Mad Max 2. And this is a film that's certainly not only influenced a lot of other science fiction and post-apocalyptic films that come sort of after it, but also, especially the third film that we will they sort of speak about, but has influenced actually modern action film sort of making in their general, because it is fairly much a a visceral thrill ride from start to finish when it comes to
Yeah,
their sort of
yeah.
action, isn't it?
It's pure cinema, pure yeah, action, cinematic, pure motion, and I'm very fond of action films because to me, and also martial arts, and stunts and fights, because for me they represent a very high expression of heart in cinema, because it's pure cinema. You cannot do what you see in a film like Mad Max. You cannot see it in any other ground of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe video games, but still, it's something else. So yeah, I think that it's by getting rid of everything that wasn't useful, really getting to the essential. Yeah, I think yeah, not only the influence of Mad Max 2 not only goes on to what it showed, but also about how it decided, how Miller decided to shoot the movie and to build it, and the rhythm he decided to have for the film. So yeah, it's a milestone in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
think.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. I think what the one thing that I really like about it, because as a obviously the first Mad Max film was a success, a, certainly in its own their sort of market, but in their Europe as well. So it was a big sort of hit there as well. So that the budget for the second one's obviously bigger, but still not that big.
No, no,
So
still not that big.
but I think what sort of struck me is where it is set means that he can make the most of the budget that he has, and the natural landscape actually lends itself to the film really well. So obviously in this one, Mel the Gibson plays the title character of their Max. So it's set in a post-apocalyptic Australian wasteland where Max is a cynical the sort of survivor of
Yeah,
whatever
he's a lone wolf.
has gone wrong, and he is they're sort of recruited by this sort of community to help them against these sort of bandit figures who um, want their sort of fuel. And fuel is very much a thing that is drives that sort of world. Um, but what I like so much about it is that it's it's a setting, so it doesn't explore really too much what went wrong with the world. I
Yeah,
think there are sort of hints at the start about how their sort of society either collapsed through sort of war or sort of nuclear weapons and things like that. But it really doesn't go into that sort of backstory, and you're very much just thrown into this world where you they survive or you're dead, basically, isn't it? So
yeah. It doesn't lose itself into justifications, and that's maybe one of the first. That's an audacity, and that's also a freedom that George Miller granted for himself and for the movie, and so we directly into it, and we and it's not at all a problem that we don't know what happened, because it happened. So it's this emergency, the fact that we don't have time and an opportunity, or we don't get, and also we don't even don't get even close from board to be available to ask ourselves that kind of questions. We're into it, and it really sets us, the viewer of the film, into this world, and that's very clever. That's very clever, and also that's really efficient. So I think that that Miller made a lot of choices, a lot of formal choices, a lot of script choices, design choices that that were useful on different grounds. Because you were telling about the Australian Westlands. It's both highly effective as projecting us in a world without cities and without all just remains of our industrial civilizations, but also it was a few hundred kilometers far from where everybody lived in Australia at the time, and it was effective also, but the cost of the shooting. So so it's clever on every level, because even what seems raw, I think is clever. Well, I love very much George Miller, because I think that everything he did is marked by intelligence, and he's a very, but also with his guts. So he's got both the guts and really a way of thinking his cinema, and setting everything right to have it visceral, as you were saying, and pure sensation cinema. So yeah, I have a lot of admiration for, and he was 26 at the time of the shooting. he did that film at 26 years old, and he had done Mad Max at 24.
Yeah, I think
2 years before. So
I think for me, so just before we move on to the guts of actually making the film and what makes it so sort of thrilling.
Oh, no, he was 36. I'm telling you, no, I'm counting. Yeah, no, he was 36. Oh, I'm sorry. He was 34. Yeah, but still
very young in those terms. I think one. I mean, one thing.
Yeah, please do.
So one thing for me that makes the film they're sort of relatable in a way. So we've sort of touched on how it's filmed in the Australian the outback. Now, obviously, that's a vast sort of landscape. It's full of very small sort of towns that are hundreds of miles from each other, and but that is actually the kind of place where I could see that if there was something there apocalyptic happens, that these are the kind of people who would still be there. They would be the ones who would be able to they survive and they sort of adapt. One thing that we do see, one of their sort of design elements is that their sort of vehicles, and it is sort of vehicle sort of driven, their sort of action, cars and their sort of trucks and so on. But that the vehicles have been, they adapted to the needs of the time. And I'm sure that if you live in the sort of Australia, and maybe not so much now because our vehicles are so they're sort of technological, but certainly back in the late sort of 70s, you could open up a car and be able to fix it yourself and modify it, and so I think it absolutely sort of portrays that really, really well. I'd like you touched on Guillaume, is that as a young filmmaker, he had no fear. So when it came to filming, the chases and such, like, he did these are for real. These are actually happening, and the danger you feel watching it. was actually real sort of danger to the people making the film as well. I mean, they were going all out to, you know, make the best film there that they could.
Yeah, indeed. It's yeah, everything was all the efforts, and they were basically the team was in the desert to do that. So they were cut off from their families, and they had no comfort because it wasn't. So yeah, everyone was going in the same direction, because I think there is a parallel in how the movie was made and what's the action on of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So and there is a I think I don't know very much about the history of the shooting, but I think I will know more in a few months, because there is a documentary in preparation. It's a documentary around the Mad Max 2 museum, which is very close from the locations of the set, and it's a guy. It's an English guy. Yeah, we discovered of him when he was young, and he moved to Australia. He took his wife and kids with him. No, maybe he didn't discover it that late, and he finally convinced his family to move with him near the location of the shooting, and he built a Mad Max 2 museum.
Brilliant.
So, and he's still looking in the desert for props and stuff on remains and remains of the sets, car parts, and that kind of things. And sometimes he find new things like an arrow, and there will be a documentary made by the French director, who is also an artist, and it will be released in a few months. Yeah, it's interesting. I will see it this summer, because we have a festival where it will be shown in July. So I think after that, the film will be able to travel in festivals.
That sounds good. I will certainly look out for that. That sounds absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, because really the myth that grow around Mad Max 2. Yeah, is still very strong. Not only at the time, we'll talk about it about the third movie, but obviously George Miller came back to Mad Max a few years ago, and hopefully he's going to do it again with his prequel or sequel. I don't know what's the Furious film. I don't remember what it's supposed to be, but yeah, that kind of energy that was in Mad Max 2 wasn't in Mad Max 3, but that's it happens. He's still it's still a vital force in cinema, and yeah, the same guy 40 years after still has it, and that's
yeah.
And for me, we can be very impressed of what he did as a young filmmaker, but also as an old filmmaker, maybe even more.
Yeah, definitely. I remember coming out of the Fury Road afterwards and being exhausted by the sheer force of the film and how he actually managed to recreate it. And I think he filmed it in very much the same way. There's very little CGI or anything like that being used in that film either. And it did very much. I felt a bit, like I'd been flattened by one of the vehicles coming over here. It was just so sort of powerful. And I think as well, one of the great things that I love about the Mad Max 2 is that, and we've said this, it is, practical. What you see is what they did.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite scenes is obviously the climax at the end. So when Max is driving the sort of truck.
The truck, yeah.
And you see a shot the motorcyclist. So there's a motorcyclist and he crashes into one of the cars and he goes spinning off. Now that wasn't planned, but that happened.
No, that wasn't planned, and that's really impressive.
Yeah,
that's very impressive. Yeah,
I do believe there that the poor stuntman himself actually broke both his legs when he did it, but does make for a great shot in the film. But it's a fantastic film, and I think now's actually a good point. So when we talk about the way it was filmed and the influence, because the whole style of it as well, as you know more than me, I think you've certainly researched this and watched a lot of a bit more examples of what sort of came after Mad Max there too. So if we move on there to our third film, and this is from 1983, and this is an Italian film. So its English title is Endgame. Their Italian title is Bronx Lotta Finale.
Which means Bronx Last Fight.
And what an interesting French title, though, I read.
Oh, in French, it's Le Gladiateur du Futur, which would be a gladiator from the future. A lot of movies from that, a lot of post-apocalyptic movies had from the future in the French title. So that was like a free pass to have young guys getting the VHS at the store or going to see it at the theaters, because these films they were in theaters in France in small city theaters well, you were mentioning the practical effects that were one of the very big strengths of Mad Max 2, but the fact that at the time to imitate or to rip off big American or Australian success could be done with on the set practical effects, add Italian filmmakers, Italian popular filmmakers in the race, because they could do it also. They also had access to even to deserts. They knew that they could go to Spain, and they were very used to shooting in Spain because they had been doing that for westerns for many years. So when the western when the crave for Italian western went down at the end of the 60s, they kept the habit. Italian filmmakers, and producers, they kept the habit of bouncing on each big Hollywood success, especially from the late 70s. So there were a lot of zombie movies, even fake sequels to Dawn of the Dead, for example, because, which in Europe was called Zombie, and there was an Italian Zombie 2. There were also fake sequels to Jaws, like Jaws 5. Who there even were lawsuits that were lost by Italian filmmakers about total ripoffs. There is a Terminator 2. Which actually is a fake sequel to Alien, but it's called Terminator. It was called Terminator 2, Shocking Dark, so they remade all the genres. They even tried to do stuff like to rip off Star Wars. They didn't insist on that because it was expensive. So there is this film called Star Crash. By Luigi Cozzi.
I actually covered that just in my last episode. That they agree on.
Yeah, which is a fun movie, but you see that they were at the limit of what they could afford. So when
having watched quite a few of the Star Wars ripoff their
Yeah,
film.
but there were very few Italian ones because it was expensive to do space
Yeah.
opera.
To be fair,
But when
makes a reasonable,
but when
their sort of effort at it.
yeah,
So that isn't too bad.
yeah, but when both Mad Max 2 and Escape from New York came along and had such a huge success and made that everyone in the world was wanting to be kept immersed in that kind of universe, in that kind of atmosphere. Yeah, Italian came back in the race with all the knowledge as in popular filmmaking, outside filmmaking with stunts and cars and deserts, and they simply had to make look like to make the actor and director look like they were American, also by hiring American actors, rarely in the main characters, but in sidekicks, and that's how, for example, Fred Williamson did all the second part of his career in Italian movies. He made like 4 or 5 post-apocalyptic Italian films. And so they had it. And they are very good rip-off. Mad Max and Escape from New York from Italy, for example. 2019, After the Fall of New York, is a very, very good movie. And you also what happened also is that the very good directors, the best directors from the time in Italy, they also came to the genre because that was the genre to be done at the time. So Lucio Fulci made a post-apocalyptic movie, Ruggero Deodato, Sergio Martino but not only the best, also the craftsmen with more hazardous talent in their craftsmanship, and that was the case with Joe D'Amato. Joe D'Amato is a very, very industrious director that has been there since the 70s, and he remade a lot of stuff. He is known to have made the Italian counterpart to a whole series of Emmanuel films.
Yep.
Like the French success, the French hit Emmanuel, but that was there was two twists in this Emmanuel. The first one is that she was called Black Emmanuel, so she was more exotic. She wasn't played by a black actress, but by an actress from the Filipinos, which is called Laura Gemser, which which stars in Endgame, the film we talk of. And the second thing with the Joe D'Amato's Emmanuel is that she had only one L to a name to avoid lawsuits. So he made, I don't know, like 7 or 8 Black Emmanuel films. It came up to Black Emmanuel and the Cannibals, and so it went quite far. And D'Amato took the post-apocalyptic he threw himself into it with quite moderate means, with few budgets, but he compensated it by putting everything he could in the same film. So in Endgame, you have gladiators from the future, because you have a kind of modern Rome, modern gladiators that are fighting in front of the TV cameras, more or less like in rollerball, but it's not. They just fight to death because there are less accessories and it's more simple to do it just hand by hand. So this gladiator is hired by a group of mutant telepaths, and the chief of the mutants is that very beautiful actress called Laura Genser, and she asked him to lead her and a group of mutants through the wastelands to escape the dictatorship, because so the bad guys, they really are Nazi stormtroopers with a double S on their arm, because security services, and they really they are black laser suited Nazi stormtroopers. And you have telepath mutants, you have ape men, you have fishmen, you have blind monks with swords. You have a ninja, and that's the name of the character. It's called Ninja. It's an actor. It's a Japanese actor that had a big career, and we even saw him more recently in the Wolverine film, because he's the one who stole his power from Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine movie. So he is in Endgame, and you have motorbikes, cross motorbikes that are supposed to be the most powerful vehicles on Earth, but you see that it's bikes that you can drive without a license. You have a bad guy, which is much more charismatic than the good guy, who starred in every post-apocalyptic movie there could be, and he was also the writer of the movie. And we have him in interview on the bonus of the Blu-ray, because and his actor name was George Eastman. His real name is Luigi Montefiore, and he's really he was there all the time in all the post-nuke Italian movies they were to be made. And you don't necessarily have the quality, but you have the quantity in the film. So it's really so generous that it never stops. It's not it's not quality meal, but you're really fed up once you watch the movie.
It's funny you should mention it. So just to touch on, so just to go back slightly, and when we were first sort of talking about what films we would they sort of cover, and you did mention obviously about all of the sort of Italian films that came after, obviously the Mad Max and they sort of escaped from the New York, and I was having a look at them, and there isn't just 3 or 4. There's about 8, 9, 10 examples that were all made in.
There's about a good 12 movies that are worth from Italy. You can count more, because then you have some films that are partly montage. So this one you have I said that there is 12 movies that are worth, and obviously Endgame is one of them. Yes,
Endgame. And like you said, I mean, watching it, and I must admit, this is the first time. So I watched it the two days ago, and I will admit, this is the first time I ever saw it wasn't a film I was familiar with, but it packs everything in. It really is. It's got everything going on.
Yeah, everything in it. And too much. Yeah, it has too much in it.
Yeah. It almost does. I mean, I was very touched in the third, where it's set in, I assume is the Bronx, by going by the title. It's meant to be.
The Bronx is but more really it would be some abandoned factory in the nearby of Rome. That would stand for the Bronx, and and the wasteland is some gravel pit.
Exactly. But that first third, and it had the idea of the post nuclear world. So like society hasn't totally broken down. So
No, it doesn't. No.
uh-huh.
But it has become much more tougher.
Mhm.
The government has become more than authoritarian, because they basically kill people not in the streets, but they chase and kill people that are different. So it's interesting to, it's not that the same kind of, there is still a society. There are TV cameras. The gladiators, they even spend time and energy to make makeups, glitter makeups
Yeah.
that are completely ridiculous, but so they try to look good on the camera. So yeah, no, it's not like everything has disappeared, but the world has become so tough that it's not stupid to describe a future world where there has been some kind of collapse, to describe it as with authoritarian tendencies having taking over.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, very
So
true.
it's because the phantasm of order, to as a solution to other kind of disorders, is something that exists now in our societies. We see that we have countries in Europe that even in France we have a post-fascist candidate that would very likely again be at the second turn of the presidential election.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
imagine you have the Russian, because you're basically Putin is very authoritarian. He puts opponents in jail. So it's not delirious to describe what the world could become.
No, not at all.
Uh,
I see.
Obviously, adding fishmen and ape men on bikes goes a little bit further
Yeah.
in
But I did.
in imagining the future. But
Yeah. But I mean, I did like like the thought. So in the first third, there is this, reality sort of TV show, as it were, where
yeah, also
where they are fighting fairly much they're to the death. And I must admit, the fight sequences are very they're sort of visceral. And I thought, and I was watching it and thinking, oh,
yeah, it's fight
you're
to the death.
getting
Yes,
hurt
yes,
here.
that's right. And it's brutal. It's not very well. The choreography is not great, but it's people that have to kill each other. So
Mhm. Yeah.
no, that's not. It's not silly all the way. The final result has so many there is so many things in it that you anyone can find good stuff in it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
not the same for
Mhm.
everyone, but
Yeah.
and among these, I think that the music is noticeable as one of the things that's good in the music. The composer worked a lot with Joe D'Amato, but also with many other directors from the era, and he was quite young, but already seasoned in building atmospheres with electronic instruments that were that you couldn't do without it in the soundtracks, in Italian soundtracks from the time.
Could be.
So for anyone who likes electronic Italo disco from the 80s, it's a good soundtrack, and you also have very very nice pieces into it.
I must admit
And
that was one of the highlights for me, was actually listening to the music, and I wouldn't say I paid more their sort of attention to the music. I possibly did, because I know that we will talk a little bit more about that just at the end. But the music stood out for me as actually something that really held the film as a whole.
yeah,
And that the music works all the way through it. Um, they're especially in the fight their scenes, because it really is quite they're sort of dramatic. I must admit, what did sort of appeal there to me, because when you look at the film now, you'll think a lot of it sort of dated quite a bit, but I quite enjoyed a little bit of their sort of nostalgia in a way. So going back to the early their sort of 80s, you touched on the characters in the TV show having the makeup, but also the people round about them had very much a certainly what we would call their sort of new wave style with their sort of clothes and hairstyles and their makeup. And I must admit, I did enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, with a bit of punk and too.
Yeah.
So that kind of mixture, you find it also in the music actually. But yes, you have a lot of features from the early 80s, but it goes so far that it finally it holds together. Because and even if John Amato is not one of the most talented director that was that worked in Italian popular cinema at the time, he was he was doing the job, and there was this idea of there is a kind of generosity that maybe has lost itself sometime on the way, except of course for George Miller, who still has it. So yeah, it's a kind of spectacle. It's a total spectacle that and I didn't show this film in theaters, but I think that when you were that I can think of how a screening of the movie would look like, with people reacting, shouting, and laughing, and I think that it's like some kind in some way the basics of cinema as a pure spectacle, like if you were going to the carnival, and there is that essence of putting a lot in it, and feeding the viewer with many things, and doing like the Americans do, even in a silly or awkward way. But there is something like the essence of not only exploitation, but popular cinema.
I think a good sign for me when watching the film, and obviously, like I said, this was the first time that I watched it, but it held me all the way through. There was no real sort of time where I thought, or I'll just have a look at my phone while I'm watching the film, or like you can often do these days. It did actually.
Yeah. But even at the time, not everyone was. For example, Fulci made a post-nuke, made a Escape from New York meet Rollerball film, and there are long moments and numerous moments in the film when you can get bored, and that's not the case with
No, definitely not. No, I think I'd just like to. So just before we move on, I just wanted to round up, and I think it certainly does create some of those, post Mad Max sort of thrills very much. What I will say about it, and this is probably testament there to the budget, is that where Mad Max goes at 100 miles an hour as regards the vehicles in this go a little bit slower, almost to the detriment, but no, because it's good fun, and it's full of their sort of action, and actually it's full of so many ideas that you probably could have made about 3 films out of it. So
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, by treating each idea better. But yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But that was also, yeah, all the people that were working on that film and that kind of film were people with were seasoned people, were people with a lot of experience, that were that really learned to get the best of the funds, the budget they had. And when you hear of people today being able to do really good YouTube videos with low budget, you have to remember, you have to look at these filmmakers from the late 70s and the early 80s that were doing movie for, I think, for really less than the cost of some big YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing an entire movie with it. And
Yeah.
they are the skills. And that goes for the music too. We talked about it, but Carlo Maria Cordio made a lot of films, made a lot of music film. He worked in horror, science fiction, and thrillers, and Rambo exploitation movies, because they also did that for a time, the Italian. They also and they were in the last. And well, they made everything they could until while there still was theaters in Italy and in Europe. And from the mid 80s, theaters, small theaters started to close.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very high pressure about real estate in the cities of all Europe. And also VHS came. So that began to be the VHS came, and later on pay TV. And that was the end of a certain era of popular cinema, of exploitation cinema in Europe.
Yeah.
In the States, it moved to video, but in Europe, it closed itself because there wasn't really a video market big enough to make it to sustain. So all those filmmakers, those composers, those operators, and some of the actors, they moved to TV to do TV shows that are completely forgotten today. So also it was the last years of a cinema, of a popular cinema, that from the 60s to the early 80s offered so much to the audience from the world. So yeah, I have a real affection for Italian cinema, and actually this is, and for post-nuke. So this is maybe the opportunity to move on to you announced that we would evoke what I do with
Exactly.
my so
I think
at the
I think you've
yeah,
very
so
much summed up what your love of the genre is, and so much, in fact, that that you've kept that there alive in your work with Pulse. So can you tell me a bit about that?
precisely. Yeah, precisely. Pretty much, it's how to meet the love for these different things. It's to join them and to do something positive and about it is. That's the project of Pulse. That's the project I have with Pulse. It's about sharing the love for all that era and all that kind of cinema by releasing films, books, and records. Generally all together, because I think that doing only books or only Blu-rays or only music tends to Well, the idea of Pulse as a publisher is to explore some universes in cinema, but not only with one format, but in its variety and entire as a whole. So for post-apocalyptic movies, with my friend Claude, we made a book in French first, and now we are releasing it in English. We had it translated in English, and we released. And we are about to release. We released 2 films last year, and we are about to release 3 more next month. So that will be 5 post-apocalyptic movies. Among Endgame and Lucio Fulci's Warriors of the year 2072, and Ruggero Deodato's Atlantis Interceptors, which are very, very good Italian post-nukes, and plus with beautiful new masters. And we are also releasing the soundtrack on LP and on CD, on vinyl and on CD for Endgame. And we have also more post-apocalyptic movies to come next year. So most of these films, all these films were unreleased in France, and some of them also in the US, the UK, and in Germany. So we try to collaborate with publishers in the States, in Germany, in the UK, to share the extras and to help ourselves to make the best releases we can, so that the buyers from France, US, UK all have the same offer, the same. So this is for post-apocalyptic cinema, and we have also other lines, other topics that we explore. We became quite experts in the golden age of pornography, with several books and also films. The French golden age, most of it, because there were few countries that had a real adult cinema. Obviously, the States, the Scandinavian countries, and France. In Germany, it's a different thing. The good German films from the 70s and 80s are all with a French cast. And for example, there wasn't adult cinema for adults in the UK because it was forbidden. So it came only much later with video. Even in Italy, it came in the late 80s, because it was also forbidden before that. We made a few books about Brigitte Lahaie. Maybe you know Brigitte Lahaie, which is the porn goddess. Maybe you know her for the role she had in Jean Rollin's movies.
All right.
And so she's much more new in the English-speaking countries for her roles in horror films, or in Faceless, directed by Jess Franco too. But in France, she was the biggest star in adult cinema. So I wrote a book, a beautiful book. I'm not the only one to say it, but a big book, a heavy book, 2.2 kilos, about her career. And we're about to make a new one about another star from that came just after her, who's called Marilyn Jess. And she happened to be new in the States too, because her last film was the last of Tracy Lord's films. And maybe you know that Tracy Lord made all of her films, except this one, being underage. So once she quit cinema, she announced that she wasn't even 18. All these films, the pre-18 films, the underage films, they were forbidden in the States. So the only film Americans could watch for, and still today, is a film in which she shared the screen with Marilyn Jess, and we also released some films and some soundtracks. Some great soundtracks, because in France, the directors for porn, they were also conventional directors doing that from time to time, and also the composers. And we have some records that are absolutely great, and the musics, they were composed by someone who worked for years with Serge Gainsbourg, for example. Who was very close, who co-wrote all the most of the early success for Serge Gainsbourg, and who is also very famous. His name is Alain Goraguer, and he's also very famous for being the composer of an animation film called Forbidden Planet. No, not Forbidden Planet.
I know.
Yeah. It's not it's because the soundtrack was very ahead of its time in 73. Fantastic Planet. Fantastic Planet.
Yes,
Yeah, very ahead of its time, and it was sampled by people in electronic music and in rap all over the world. And he made for porn movies. He made absolutely great scores that we released, and that was one of the record was Alain Goraguer's movies. What was films of X-rated music. That's the name of the record. Was one of the first projects we had. And we have some work about post-apocalyptic movies to some more work around post-nuke films to do. We will certainly go into martial arts in a way or another. Maybe not by the main door, maybe by the small doors. It could be bluesploitation, for example. Films with Bruce Lee lookalikes, like Bruce Lee. And we will also probably release some Mondos. Mondos. It's and we have some French Mondos on the way.
That sounds that's those actually both sound like very good they're sort of topics for me to cover maybe in the future.
Oh yeah, if you want, you can call upon us again, and of course. And about the books, we have a book about slasher films. We have two books actually. We have a big anthology about slashers, and we also made a Make Your Own Adventure book, but which would be Make Your Own Slasher. So be stalked by a killer and try to get away from it. But unlike the books we were reading when we were young, which were books for children, this one will have blood, violence, and sex in it, because it's a slasher. It's a slasher book.
So very much.
And we have also a book about ninjas that will come next year, and some other projects. Mainly around cinema and pop culture.
I must admit, I'm very much looking forward to when my copy of After the World Ends there sort of turns up, and that will be very soon. And I'd just like to say they sort of Graham, thank you very much for their coming on,
You're welcome.
And after you've spoke about all those other great things that you're up to, I look forward to you coming back. So thank you very much, and thanks everybody for their listening.